Okay. Okay, Purnima Mataji, you want to share?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Last week you explained about how our spiritual body looks like,
Okay.
and you said like presence of soul is based on our consciousness, pain and pleasure.
Consciousness is the indication that the soul is present.
Okay, and you said like pain and pleasure can't be understood by others. It's only Paramatma who will know what we are going through.
Our pain and pleasure can be understood by us and Paramatma. Nobody else can understand our pain and pleasure.
Okay, and you said that we should never assume that we understand others' pain. We can't understand other person's pain.
Yes.
And soul and consciousness only is in this body and not in another body.
As in, our soul is present in our body, as in we as the soul are present in this body, and we are aware, conscious of our body, but we are not conscious. We are not present in another body, so we are not conscious about that body.
Yeah. And you mentioned super soul is Paramatma and is the sanctioner as well as permitter.
Permitter,
Yeah.
yes.
He can understand our pain and pleasure of everyone.
Everybody, yes.
Yeah. And you mentioned about Aridas Thakur also. He's Nama Acharya. He used to do 192 rounds of japa.
Mm.
Uh, then you mentioned like uh, Paramatma is in another art also. So we no, you mentioned like why people don't cross the leg of the others or any material.
Cross others, yeah. We
Cross,
should
yeah.
not cross
So
others.
instead, because Paramatma is in another's art, so we respect that. So we won't do that.
Yeah,
That was one point.
yeah.
And you mentioned the size of the soul. Like if
Mm.
you take the tip of the hair and cut into 10,000 parts, that is the size of the soul. Soul is
Right.
smaller than the atom you
Correct.
mentioned about it
Mm.
as per Shastras.
Yeah.
That's all I could remember.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah.
You also mentioned about the Ajamil story in which you
Mm.
mentioned that at the last moment he took the name of Lord Narayana and he was able to
Yeah,
transit
very
that
important.
world.
Yeah,
And
while we might, sorry, just one point there, right? So all of us have fixed time in this material world. Yeah? We can't extend that even by a second. Neither can we decrease it, right? And so it's like we are encaged. We are stuck in this body. Okay, and till the time we are destined to be in this body, we have to remain. So many times, some people have to experience so much of trouble, pain, sorrow, misery, and they become so dejected that they can't get out of it, right? They can't put an end to their misery and they just commit suicide, because that is the only option out, actually, and that's not a good option because it's punishable. That particular atma ends up not getting a body, ends up being a ghost. So it's not a very good thing for anybody to do, but practically we are stuck. We are stuck in this body. So we have to be very responsible. We have to be very responsible. Just imagine, right? Suppose say you are stuck with, say, some confined thing which you are not very happy about, and you have to be with it for your full life. It can be so distressing. So that is why we should live life in such a way that our next, if at all, if we get engaged again, that means that if we come back again to this material world, it will not be a miserable one. It will be a glorious one, right? And a glorious life is that of a devotee, because actually a devotee, he knows how to live happily in this material life, and he knows what his next destination is, right? So there is no anxiety for him, and there is no sorrow for him also, because he is completely surrendered to Krishna. Yeah, Rohit Prabhu, what else?
yeah, we also talk about since everything is decided by karma for this
Mm.
birth, so why we should do anything.
Yeah,
So you mentioned that we should do it for the next life so that we don't again fall back.
yeah. So again, so there are some, some more elaboration on that point. It is predetermined. It is predetermined. Um, so when it is predetermined, what what sense does it make to spend all our energy behind these material things? But at the same time, can we say that, no, I'm not going to do it anything at all? Anyway, it's predetermined. So I'm not going to. So for example, so the food is there on the table, and I'm not going to go to the table. Now, what will happen is that maybe then it means that you are not predetermined to eat, right? So the food will be there on the table and we'll be sitting here, right? So see, we end up doing whatever we are supposed to get. There is no doubt about it, right? So for example, if we have to starve that day, we will end up starving. If you have to eat, we'll end up eating. So we will anyway end up doing, right? Just that our intelligence you think about it and say, no, see, we should understand one more thing. This world, Lord has created in such a way that for most of the things you find a reason. Like for example, what would I say? So if suppose say you have to buy vegetables, then you get out of your house, take your vehicle, go to the market, buy vegetables and come back. Now suppose say the vegetables just came in the house without you going out. What happened to you? As in, not through Amazon or not through online order, but I'm just saying, like, nothing, you didn't place an order, nothing, and exactly whatever vegetables you wanted came into your house. You'll freak out, right? You'll think like, what is going on? As in some ghost or something. Is there something else which is happening? So generally, the way the world works is Krishna makes it look very natural to us. It looks natural, as though it is because of our effort only that thing happened, right? Because if it seems to appear like not natural, then it will freak us out, right? We will suddenly become concerned. How is this, right? It will worry us, right? So most of the times things happen in such a way that you can attribute a reason. Oh, I did this because this, or this happened because of this, so that you are at peace. Okay, this happened because I did this and this happened, right? So you are somewhat comforted, right? Otherwise, if things just keep happening haywire, like automatically by itself, then we'll get psyched. So it is just to kind of give us comfort. But actually in Bhagavatam we read there is something called as Ajagara Vritti. Okay, what is Ajagara Vritti? Ajagara is a python. Okay, there is an occupation of python. What is occupation of python? Does python go to work? No, python is just lying in one place, right? And whenever some food comes, it will just go and grab it. That's it. This is called Ajagara Vritti. That is the occupation of a python. So extremely highly elevated spiritualists, transcendentalists, people who are very elevated, they don't bother about their food also. If it comes, they will take it. If it doesn't come, they will not be worried about it. Okay, but this is something that is not to be imitated. When one reaches that stage, one will exhibit that kind of behavior, but we can't copy this. We can just try to imitate this from somebody. Okay. So right now we are thinking that I am doing things, hence something is happening, isn't it? We are thinking I am going to work, I am working, hence this is happening. What we are not accepting is the fact that I had to go to work, hence I went and I did the work, and hence I got the result, or whatever it is, right? So we forget that first part, which is our karma phala. And we think, no, externally, because I actually went to office, this happened. Right? So that way, things are predetermined to a very great extent. I mean, there is very little scope for some adjustment. And, this you would have experienced. If suppose you go to an astrologist, okay, and then you tell the astrologer, okay, see, I'm having a very tough time. And he says, oh, no, okay, you're this dasha, that something, your planetary systems are not in a good shape. You're going to have a lot of problems for, next few months. And you say, oh, no, what can I do? How can you help me? You know, can we do some puja, etc. Then the astrologer says, okay, do this puja, go to this place, do this, blah, blah, blah. It gives you some, and you do it. And then you might experience that the problem has either reduced or it is gone. Now, there could be two reasons for this. Okay, one is, by the time you went to the astrologer for a remedy, it was very close to the time that for you to have got the remedy, which means that it was the right time. So you did it, and actually that was the time when you had to get the remedy. You got the remedy and everything went fine, right? As in, it was already predetermined and it just happened that way. Now another thing can happen, which is we are determined, we are destined to go to our astrologer, we get the remedy, and that remedy enables us to swap, right, some future suffering, future happiness for today's suffering. So your current suffering will go, you're going to get happiness, but that same suffering you have to make up for at a later point in time, which you don't know when, which might be this life or next life, right? But then, yeah, I mean, you can intelligently say, at least this life I don't have to suffer, maybe, right? That much possibility is there of shifting, but you cannot eradicate it. You can't completely remove your suffering. You can't remove it fully. You can exchange it. You can swap it. Right. So to a great extent, it is predetermined. It is predetermined. Right. So doesn't make too much sense to worry too much about our present. Worry, I'm saying. I'm not saying do. Please note my words. Saying there is no point in worrying too much about the present. We should do our duty. Whatever is our duty, we should determine our duty first. Should do our duty. Leave the result to Krishna. Don't worry about the result. Don't get attached to the result. Because whatever is supposed to come will anyway come, whether we like it or not. Sometimes we think that, oh, no, see, first time I failed by achieving, in trying to achieve something, then I worked very hard. I put so much of effort that this time, I really made it. And that ahankara, that feeling of I did it comes to us. Now, Krishna will discuss this in the later half of second chapter, third chapter. If you think that I did it, then I am bound by that reaction. Actually, I didn't do it. I was just I wasn't just an instrument. I was just an instrument. And if that fruit was supposed to come, I became an instrument and the fruit came. That's it. So this is actually called art of doing work. So we'll discuss this in the second chapter, later half of second chapter. But this is important to note. This is a big part of Krishna conversation between Krishna and Arjuna. Because otherwise Krishna could have told Arjuna, Arjuna, you chill. You sit under a tree. I will send you, lime juice or whatever. I will take care of your battle. Or your battle is anyway already taken care of. You just don't worry. You just go and sit there. No, he didn't say any of that. He told Arjuna, saying that you have to fight. Ma manusmara yudhyacha. He said, Ma manusmara. Think of me and fight. Do your duty. Right? No escaping duty. So we'll discuss this in more detail. It is especially important for all of us, present age people whose life just revolves around work, isn't it? Previously, life used to resolve around more meaningful things, but unfortunately today life just revolves around work and nothing else. Not even family many a times, which is so important. But at the expense of family, it just becomes work. So anyway, we'll understand these topics in greater detail as we move forward. Okay. Anything else, Rohit Prabhu, you had?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, these points.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else has anything else to share before we can proceed?
What is the role of prayers, Prabhuji?
Okay. What is the role of prayers? Okay. So see, most of what has been given in Shastra, including us trying to do our duty sincerely, irrespective of whether we get the result or not, is just for purification. Prayers create dependence, right? So we understand that we are not the supreme. When you're praying to somebody, the first thing that comes to our mind is we are praying to somebody who is superior, more superior than me. right? So that sense of me and it's all my capability and that false ego will slowly get eliminated if we pray in the right mood, right? And prayers also, there are different types of prayers. Okay, this itself is a discussion in itself. Some prayers, there are selfish prayers, there are selfless prayers. So there could be different types of prayers. Either way, the bottom line is prayers are showing us that we are not supreme, we are not in control. That is the basic psychology that has to come out of a prayer. And then, of course, based on what we are, whom we are praying to, what are our prayers, what is the nature of our prayers, etc., etc., there's difference, right? But primarily, we should accept the fact that I'm not in control. There's somebody else in control, in supreme control at least. I'm in like very minute control, right? And sometimes prayers also give us peace of mind. Again, the peace of mind is based on the fact that I am dependent on somebody. You know, this dependence on somebody is actually gives a lot of peace of mind. When we think that we are solely responsible for everything, we feel too pressurized. When we think that, you know, no, I'm not solely responsible, there's somebody else in control, then it becomes much easier for us to deal with things, right? Yeah, so that is significance of prayers. But yeah, this is just a very what should I say, incomplete answers. We will discuss it at a later point in time. Okay, so I'm going to proceed further from verse 18. We stopped till we discussed 17 last week. Okay, 18. Antavantai me deha nityasya yokta sharirinaha anasino prameyasya tasmad yutyasva bharata. Krishna is saying the material body of the indestructible, immeasurable, and eternal living entity, which is soul, is sure to come to an end. Sure to come to an end. There is no doubt. Therefore, fight, O descendant of Bharata. Right. So there is no doubt that this body is going to come to an end. If any of us are in this, so actually, when Yudhishthir Maharaj, you would have all heard of this Yaksha Prashna, right? So there was some unseen voice which asks some questions to Yudhishthir. It comes in Mahabharata, right? And he asked this one question which is asked to Yudhishthir, saying that what is the most surprising thing that you find in this material world? And he says the most surprising thing is people are dying all the time around us, but we look at them and we never think that we are going to die. We live like we are going to live forever. So this is the biggest illusion we are in. We think that we're going to live forever, but unfortunately everybody has to die, irrespective of what our position is, what, how much money we have. Unfortunately everybody has to die. So Krishna is saying, anyway you have to die, just fight, do your duty. Why are you hesitating in doing your duty? So just see the emphasis that is being laid on duty, right? Krishna, you will hear a lot of this duty consciousness, right? Saying do it because it's your duty. 19. Yayenam veti hantaram nishchayanam manyate hatam uvautam na vijanito nayam hantina anyate. Neither he who thinks the living entity the slayer, nor he who thinks it slain is in knowledge, for the self slays nor is slain. So there is no death for the soul. That is what this verse is saying. There is no death for the soul. There is always death for the body. There is definite death for the body, but there is absolutely no death for the soul. The soul is neither born nor does it die. Now, does it mean that we should indiscriminately then kill animals? Because anyway, soul is not going to die. What should we do? Anyway, there's nothing like death. So just go about killing animals, eating meat, non-vegetarian. People can be happy. Saying that anyway, there's nothing, right? I can use this logic to say, what is the problem in killing animals then? Right? Anyway, soul is not going to get killed. So what do you think? Does anybody want to share a thought?
It is not dharma. It is adharma.
It's not dharma. Okay, why is it not dharma? Logically, why is it? What is wrong with this? What is wrong with killing anything for that matter? What is wrong?
That animal is not harming us.
Sorry?
That animal is not harming us.
That animal is not harming us. Okay, Rohit Prabhu?
Yeah, we don't have power to create, so we don't have power to destroy.
Okay, we don't have power to create, so we don't have power to destroy. Supriya Mataji is saying consciousness. What does it mean, Supriya Mataji?
I mean, it's a conscious that like does not allow us to kill people.
Okay, conscious doesn't allow us to kill people. The other way of looking at it is also there is consciousness in that entity, in that living entity that we are killing. So a simple way, right, to think about it is, suppose somebody troubles us. Are we happy about it? Are we happy about somebody troubling us? No, we are not happy. Then why are we troubling others? It's such a simple logic, right? These animal killers, they don't think about this. They, if somebody comes and does troubles them, they say, no, 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 why, this is not fair, this, that, and all that. But Arey Baba, you're doing the same thing to that person, that poor thing. Just because it can't speak in your language, you are entitled to kill. So we are not entitled to kill because we don't, all these answers are correct, because we don't create, they are not doing any harm. That's also correct, because some animals which can do harm without any reason, like scorpion and snakes, they are okay if they are killed, right? Shastra says that it is okay because they are envious creatures, right? And the third one is, generally if you are sattvic, our consciousness doesn't allow us, saying that something is wrong. This doesn't seem like the right thing to do, right?
Prabhu,
And Lord, yeah.
one more thing is like super soul. That supreme soul is in every living being. So we should not harm.
Which is true of every living entity, of everything that we do, right? We should not even harm another person verbally, right?
Yeah.
But specifically my question was more in terms of harming that body. Okay, Janni, many a time vegetarians are also asked, why are they killing plants? Yes, absolutely. We are not supposed to kill plants either. So what do we do? Yes, what you are saying is correct. We are not supposed to kill plants. So upvas, stop eating. Okay, so Shastra says two things here. One is, it says Jivo Jivasya Jivanam, right? That means that one living entity is the food for another living entity. Now this we used to call it as food chain. Okay, now this food chain is correct, but the food chain has been misinterpreted or misrepresented. Okay, so actually Shastra says that two-legged, for example, like those which cannot move have to be eaten by those which can move. Right? And of course, see, there is another criteria which is more important, that for eating meat, there is a certain type of nature of the body, starting from teeth, intestine, etc. Nature has created in such a way, Lord has created in such a way that, for example, okay, so let's ask this, right? Like, what is the most natural way of killing animals? Is other animals killing animals, right? Like, for example, a lion can kill a deer. Now, when the lion kills a deer, how does it eat? How does it kill? First of all, it kills by itself, by its own strength. It runs and jumps on the prey and kills it. Right now, when it kills it, and how does it eat? Literally, if you see, like there are canines and there are sharp claws to tear apart. So the Lord has given natural ability for the animal. There is nobody butchering the animal. There is no kitchen out there which is cutting using a sharp fork which can even cut a human being, right? None of that is happening, right? It's a natural setting. An animal is going and killing. So so yes, if suppose somebody previously, Kshatriyas used to be allowed to do this, right? And their requirement was, you go to the forest, not domestic animals. You have to go and kill only wild animals. Why? Because they come and create problems for people and domestic animals. So you can kill, but in a very restricted way. But you have to go and kill. You have to go with your bow and arrow or whatever you have, fight with the lion if required, kill the animal. It's fine, right? But today what we are doing, we're sitting in the comfort of our home. Somewhere that poor animal is getting butchered mercilessly, and you place the order on Amazon. Amazon delivers it to your house and you eat. This is not the way to do it, right? Now, coming to vegetarians. Now, I spoke about one thing, which is about consciousness. Okay, consciousness. There is something called as consciousness. There are different levels of consciousness, right? Now, for example, there's a tree out here. Now, this tree has been standing for many years beside my house, right? You would have seen so many trees, they stand for so many years. Now, then also, in my street, there are tons of dogs, street dogs. Okay, now, if suppose say I ask the street dog to stand in one place like this tree for years together, or for that matter, if somebody asks us to stand like this for a long time, is it possible for us to do? Right? But at the same time, our boss proved that plants have life. Plants do have life, but their level of consciousness is lesser than that of animals. The consciousness of animals is less than that of humans. So the consciousness is lesser. So when we are actually killing plants, we are killing something which has very low consciousness. It doesn't even literally experience pain. Right? Very little. It's not that it doesn't have, but it has very, very little pain. Okay. Now, which is why even vegetarianism is not something great. Because Krishna says in 3rd chapter, 14th verse, I think. Yeah. No, not 14. Yeah, 13. Yagnashishtasino santo muchante sarva kilpishai bunjate te agam papam ek pachanti atma kananat. So he's saying even vegetarians, technically, if they cook for their own personal sense enjoyment, then that is also sin. Why? Because that animal, that fruit or flower, vegetable, whatever we ate, was a living entity. It was killed and we are consuming it. So it's a sin. Absolutely, it's a sin. It's a lower grade sin than killing an animal. Right? We can understand this because what is the punishment for killing an animal versus killing a human being? Somebody kills a human being, death or, whatever. It should be death, right? But of course, today's our law and order system is high wire, right? But yeah, generally, right, if you murder somebody, then the punishment given is much more than just killing an animal. And the words also, English words are also different. Kill and murder. Actually, in Christianity, Jesus Christ said, "Thou shall not kill." He didn't say, "Thou shall not murder." Right? In the sense, they said, yeah, you should not even kill animals. So this killing is of animals is killing something which has higher consciousness, which has higher pain, which has higher experience of emotion. So, for example, people keep pets. Why do they keep pets? Because that animal can experience, it can reciprocate in some way, right? Which of you can keep a apple in front of you and try to express your love, but it's not going to work, right? So the consciousness is much higher in animals. So the consciousness is lesser in plants and in plants. So while it is okay to kill them, it is still a sin. That is why Krishna says in the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhaktya prayachiti. Yeah, Patram pushpam phalam toyam. Okay, Supriya, important question. We address that. Patram says leaves, Patram, pushpam, phalam, fruits, vegetables. So he's saying, take these, leaf, fruits, vegetables, etc. Yome bhaktya prayachiti. Offer it to me. Yadam bhakti upartam ashnani prayatatmana. So he's saying, I am going to accept it. I will accept it. And when the Lord accepts it, the sin involved is lost because anyway, he is the creator and is being offered to him. Then when we eat that, that is why we say prasadam sanctifies. Food that is offered to Krishna and then taken sanctifies because it's not creating sins. Otherwise, generally, when we are eating 3 times a day, we are just eating sin. Right now, the other important point that Supriya is bringing up is hypocrisy. Right? Hypocrisy. This is the highest degree of hypocrisy, right? You keep pets and you kill the same animals which are not your pets. Huh? You might have a dog at home and you'll kill some, yeah, in other countries they eat dogs also, right? So it's not like a big thing. Yeah, you can kill anything. You can keep your pet dog and take care of it, but other dogs are not pet. Sorry, bad luck. If there are other dogs or other animals which are not your pet, bad luck. I'm going to eat you. Yeah, it's so demoniac. Yeah, so eating vegetarians, yes, not the best thing, but better than eating non-vegetarian. But the best thing is to offer food to Krishna and then eat it as prasadam. Okay, so I'm going to continue. 20. न जायते म्रियते वा कदाचिन् नायं भूत्वा भविता वा न भूयः अजो नित्य शाश्वतोऽयं पुराणो न हन्यते हन्यमाने शरीरे. For the soul, there is neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. Just see, soul has not come into being, which means that there was no a particular time when the soul was born. It is eternal. He is unborn, soul is unborn, eternal, ever existing, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. So he is not slain when the body is slain. So it is just the body which is getting destroyed. Okay. So in this, in Katha Upanishad, there is an Upanishad called Katha Upanishad. It says, Anoraniyan mahato mahiyan atmasya jantur nito gurayam tammakratu pashyati vita soko dhatu prasadan mahimanam atmanaha. So here it says that there are two birds. There's one, there is a Jivatma, which is the individual soul, and then there is Paramatma, the super soul. And both of them are situated on the same tree. Which is this tree? The tree of the body. This body is compared to a tree. So both the Paramatma and the Jivatma are residing in this body. Now, when the Jivatma turned towards Paramatma, only then he can really, understand creation and he can achieve peace. We can achieve peace only when we turn towards Paramatma. Why? Because we understand what is reality, we understand what is creation, we understand how we should respect other living entities, we should understand that all of this is our karma, all of this is under the control of Paramatma, of Supreme Lord, and we become peaceful. But till we turn our attention towards Supreme Lord, towards Paramatma or Supreme Lord, we are in distress. We are concerned, we are in anxiety. Right? So this is very important. This knowledge that we are the spirit soul and we don't have any destruction as such is very important because it gives us lasting peace, eternal peace, knowing our real identity, that we are not this body. So why are we so worried about whatever is happening to the body? It's okay, it will happen, it will pass. 21. Veda Vina. Okay. Yes. So will such sins, so Janani is asking, will such sins, killing plants, also accumulate? Yes, okay. So see, every moment of the day, we are accumulating papa or punya. We are either accumulating pious credits or bad credits, right? Pious credits result in happiness, bad credits result in suffering. Every moment, there is no exception to this. Even when we are sleeping, we are accumulating. Okay. Now, by offering first to the Lord, can we lessen the number? No. By offering to the Lord, the karma phala stops, as in that food that we would have otherwise eaten and would have resulted in karma phala. When we offer to Krishna, it becomes zero. There's no karma phala now from that eating. That is the reason that, when you do some festival at home, some puja, etc., you offer food to the Lord and then consume. And of course, on that day, there's no onion, no garlic, no nonsense.
I got a call just now. I think the power went off. So Prabhu is joining.
Thank you so much.
Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Sorry, I lost my. This is raining here.
Yeah.
It's lost power. Okay, it's really not good lighting. Okay. What was I saying? So people who are, I was talking about eating vegetarian food.
Yeah. Every second we are getting.
Every second, yes, very important. So every second, actually, we have we are accumulating karma. We are accumulating reactions from our work. So it's very important that we also be very responsible with everything we do, because otherwise good things result in happiness and bad things result in despair. And when we suffer in our life, then we think saying, oh, why is this suffering happening? We don't think about it when we are doing some work, because the suffering is happening because when we were doing some work, we didn't think about it. We didn't think about why we were doing that work, right? So that is why human life is that of responsibility. That is why it is said human life is that of responsibility. Animal life is not life of responsibility. Human life is a life of responsibility. So human beings have to be responsible with everything that we do. We have to be responsible. Okay. Veda vinashinam nityam yaenam majam avyayam katam sa purusha partha kam ghatayati hantikam. Oh, Partha, how can a person who knows that the soul is indestructible, eternal, unborn, and immutable kill anyone or cause anyone to be killed? So, see, what is important is everybody is going to be born again. An important point is to think about is what kind of body will we get? Where will we be born? That is the important thing, right? How much suffering are we going to have? How much happiness are we going to have? Those are the important questions to ask, because anyway we're going to be reborn, right? We can either be born again in the material world, or we can choose to be born in the spiritual world. It's choice is ours. Okay, verse 22. Vachamsi jirnani yatha vihaya navani grindhati naroparani tatha sharirani vihaya jirnani anyani samyati navani dehi. Beautiful analogy here. It says, as a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, the soul similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up old and useless ones. Just see, I mean, if we say death, people become so afraid. Just same death is just redefined. It's just saying, like, when we put on new garments, so we get up in the morning, take bath, we change our clothes. Is it such a big event? No, we just take off our, soiled clothes, put them for wash, wear new clothes, fresh set of clothes, and that's it. We're not going to think about, oh, those clothes I wore yesterday, why do I have to give it off, take it off? No, we're not going to feel, distressed about it. And death is just same thing. We are, that means I as a soul, I'm just dropping this body and taking a new one. And generally we are so excited about taking new things, right? So here is a new body. So why are we not excited about it? Instead of being excited, why are we so afraid about it? Or why are we so, why is it such a, what should we say? Not a very welcome event. Just going to change it. That's it. We're going to get another body, new body. That's it. That is death. So we should understand this is reality. And this transference of the soul from one body to another, that is also done by the grace of super soul. Because sometimes people ask, saying that, who is the witness for all my sins? Who is the witness for all the good and bad that I've done in my past? Who is the witness? Paramatma is the witness. He's there with us all the time. He knows things that we have not done, that we have thought about in the mind, but not done. That also he knows. He knows everything. He's a perfect witness. So somebody can't say, oh, no, see, that was actually in my previous body. Now it is a new body. I am not that same person. No, I am not the same body. I am not born in that same family. I don't have the same name, but I am the same person. I am that soul which in that body committed sins. I have to be responsible for it. And I am responsible for it. And I have to accept the results. I can't just escape. Whether I like it or not, I can't escape from those, from the punishment. Right, so the significance of all these verses is basically don't give too much importance to this material world. That's what it is. 23. Nainam chindanti shastrani, nainam dahati pavakah, na chainam kledayanti apo, na shoshayati marutah. Saying the soul cannot be cut by, it cannot be cut to pieces by a weapon, it cannot be burned by fire, it cannot be moistened by water, nor it can be withered by wind. Nothing can happen to the soul. None of these material elements can do anything to the soul. So nothing to worry about. 24. Achedyoyam adahyoyam akledyo shoshevacha itya sarvagatasthānur achaloyam sanatanaha. The individual soul is unbreakable, it is insoluble, it cannot be burned, it cannot be dried, it is everlasting, it is present everywhere, it is unchangeable, it is immovable, it is eternally the same. Basically, there is nothing that can happen to the soul. That's all. Simple, right? In multiple ways, Krishna is just saying this. Okay, so the other important thing here, in this verse, there is a word called Sarvagata. Sarvagata means that it is present everywhere. So the soul is present everywhere. What does it mean? Anybody wants to take a guess? Not those who have read Bhagavad Gita previously. What does Sarvagata mean?
Is it space, Prabhuji?
Space.
Space.
Okay. Meaning that the soul is also there in space.
No, space itself is soul.
Space itself is soul. Okay. Okay. Anybody else? Anybody else? What does this Sarvagata mean? It is saying that it is present everywhere. The soul is present everywhere. Okay. Soul is present everywhere means that our scientists think that there is no life on where? Mars. Right? Where did they go to land? Mars, Moon. So many planets they are trying to land, and they say there is no life there. Isn't it? They say there is no life on these planets. But actually, in all the 14 planetary systems, there is life. Every universe is made up of 14 planetary systems. In all the 14 planetary systems, there is life. There is life everywhere. Actually, on my terrace, so I see that the water tank. That water tank, below that water tank, there are some, some kind of plants growing. They're like, I didn't put anything here for it to grow. How come it is growing? Because there is jiva everywhere. It grows. Wherever the conditions are conducive, it will grow. Now, in this material earth, right, the word earth, there are 5 elements to create a body. Earth, water, fire, air, ether. Earth, water, fire, air, ether. On earth planet, earth element is more. So our bodies have earth element more, which means that you can touch and feel. right? But then if you go to a fiery planet, for example, like the sun, now in the sun, the people, the living entities there will have fire. Their bodies will be fiery, right? Now, unless we are able to see or recognize fiery living entities, we can't make them out. So we'll say, okay, this is just fire everywhere. Yes, because fire is the primary element there. Now you go to some other planet where it is primarily water, then the bodies of the living entities there will be primarily water. We can't understand this, right? Because scientists have not been able to prove it. So scientists say, no, 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 it cannot be. Like there's life only here. And then they say, no, no, but there are also close to living conditions on Mars, etc. Of course, there are living conditions. They are not similar to Earth. That's the only thing. Just because it's not similar to Earth doesn't mean that life cannot exist. You know, this is called Kopa Manduka Nyaya, right? The Kopa means well, Manduka is a frog. Now, frog in the well theory. What is a frog in the well thinking? Once there was a frog in a well, right? And then one of its friends came from abroad. It came from the ocean. It came to meet this frog in the well, and it told the frog, frog, your well is so small, there is so little water. Where I come from, there is so much of water. There's water and only water. This frog in the well, he said, how is it possible? Just see how big my well is, how much water. Then when this other frog is saying, no, there's more than that. Then the frog tried to, start expanding its body. He said, okay, is it so big? Is it so big? It's so big, it expanded its body, and finally it burst and died, right? This is frog in the well, which means that we cannot understand beyond our experience. So then we stop to believe it. But that's not totally true also. That's only true about spiritual things. That's not true about material things, right? In the sense, we look at what the scientists say. They are trying to do some experiments with their eyes, ears, nose, mouth, etc., whatever limited senses they have. And they say this is there, this is not there, and we just accept it. Have you gone and experimented what these guys have proven or what these guys publish? We've not. We just accept it. But then when Shastra says that there is Jiva in every place, it's present everywhere, then we doubt, saying, where is the proof? Show me the proof. So this is also one level of hypocrisy. Some things we want to accept, some other things we don't want to accept. So here Krishna is saying it is Sarvagata. It is present everywhere. There is no doubt that there are living entities all over the creation. Otherwise, what was the need for creation? Waste. 27. Jatasya hi dhruvam mrityor dhruvam janma mritasya cha tasmadapariharyarte natvam sochitum arhasi. See, conclusive, saying one who has taken his birth is sure to die. After death, one is sure to take birth again. Therefore, in the unavoidable discharge of your duty, you should not lament. Saying anyway, this is a natural process. It's going to happen. Like I said, it just depends on what type of body we're going to get next. But we are going to get a body. So do your duty. That's what Krishna is telling Arjuna. Avyaktadini bhutani vyakta madhyani bharata avyakta nidhananyeva tatra ka paridevana. All created beings are unmanifest in the beginning, manifest in the interim state, and unmanifest again when annihilated. So what need is there for lamentation? So even, for example, for argument's sake, if we say that that there is no cause, that there is no soul, okay? If it is just a bag of chemicals, right? If we say it's a bag of chemicals, then why are we getting worked up? It's just a bag of chemicals, right? You just fill up with another bag of chemicals. If there's no soul, no nothing, and it's just all combination of matter, then still we should not be, we should not feel bad when somebody dies. Right, so finally Krishna concludes saying that Ascharyavat pashyati kashchidenam Ascharyavat vadanti tataiva chanyaha Ascharyavat chainam manya shrunoti shrutvapi enam veda na chaiva kaschit. Some look at the soul as amazing, some describe him as amazing, Some hear of him as amazing, and others, even after hearing about him, cannot understand him at all. So the soul is so difficult to understand that we might hear so much about it, still we cannot understand, because we are so used to thinking about ourselves as the body, we cannot think about ourselves as a soul. So we are the soul, we are the spirit soul. Okay, so with this, actually, Krishna concludes. Actually, one more verse, he says, Dehi nityam avadhyoyam dehe sarvasya bharata tasmat sarvani bhutani natvam sochitum arasi. O descendant of Bharata, he who dwells in the body can never be slain. Therefore, you need not grieve for any living entity. Same thing that is said in the, like before he started his advice on the soul, just saying, yeah, everybody is going to die. So don't grieve, just do your duty. Okay, so we'll stop here. This ends the complete discussion about, this is called Sankhya. This is technically Krishna has explained that we are not this body, we are spirit soul, and because we are spirit soul, we are eternal, and because we have this body, we have certain duties to perform, and we better try to perform our duties as per the body we have received. And as human beings, live a more responsible life, because that is the type of body we have got, and the soul is anyway going to transmigrate, it's going to go on to another body. So be responsible and decide what kind of